Mike Allen from Chicagoland here, broadcasting from Villa Park, Illinois. And in front of this historic building, built in 1929, we're going to be checking out an old school train station that's been converted into a museum, which talks about the history of Ovaltine within this community, as well as showcasing some of the ancient artifacts and history of this town. So hope you'll come along and join me, and let's get started. And if you haven't done so already, please remember to hit that subscribe button. Once we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, I promise I will stop asking. And on this bike and walking path used to be the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin electric railway line, which is what this depot served. Here's some information about this building. It was constructed in 1929 here in Villa Park, Illinois, and put on the National Register of Historic Places in 1986. Served as a train station for a good majority of time as commuters would commute into the city of Chicago. And also, this area was once the location for the old Ovaltine factory, so a lot of workers lived and worked in this area as well. An old sign denoting the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin Railroad, one of three. Here's the old ticket office for the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin Railway. Here they got on display a portable typewriter and rotary telephone. Always reminds me of my grandma's house when we would go visit growing up. As a little kid, she had one of these sitting on her kitchen table. Under this George Washington portrait, got a no trespassing sign for the train station. Here's a picture of the station under construction in 1929 along the railway. You can see off in the distance that water tower. That is where the Ovaltine plant was eventually built. Here's a Windsor sewing machine. Also on display here is a couple of antique adding machines, one from 1910 and one from 1965. There's advertising souvenirs from Villa Park businesses past and present. What I saw right away was this picture of the Portillo's doghouse, as the restaurant Portillo's got its start here in Villa Park. The Ovaltine products that were made here in the nearby plant just down the street. Thinking of that scene in Christmas Story where he decoded a message from Little Orphan Annie, and it was, "Be sure to drink your Ovaltine." A crummy commercial. Some items from the Ovaltine plant. Ovaltine security patch along with a uniform. Looks to be another product in a tin can. Also noticed a few other items up here as well. Not sure if you could see it, but some old-fashioned toys that say Ovaltine on them. There's some information about what evolved into Ovaltine. Significant addition was added in 1929, same year this train depot was built. And then they completed the expansion in 1935. The factory closed in 1986, but luckily the building was preserved and turned into apartments. Here's a picture of the plant in 1985, a year before the company relocated. And I mentioned Little Orphan Annie and A Christmas Story earlier, but here's some Little Orphan Annie items. And now I'm starting to understand the connotation that the Christmas Story movie used with Little Orphan Annie and Ovaltine. And there it is, Little Orphan Annie's secret society with the decoder that Ralphie used to figure out what the code was. And that was to drink his Ovaltine. There's another advertisement of Annie's Secret Society, 1937. And there's some information about the decoder rings and how it would be sent in the mail, just like it was portrayed in the movie. Some information about the character that was popular in the Chicago Tribune for nearly 50 years and was licensed to be used to promote Ovaltine products. Here they got on display a Sears Kenmore Visimatic. Looked like it used to wash clothes. I've never seen anything like this before. It says it was from the 1960s though. It's my first time seeing an item like this. I have, however, seen these old-fashioned refrigerators. This one from General Electric, dated 1933. And they also have some other typical items that you would find in a 1930s kitchen, including a jar of Ovaltine. This one chocolate flavored. Here's a 1931 stove. It's called an Exeter Universal. Along with this, looks to be a toaster. Here's a display about Captain Midnight and how it was created to promote Ovaltine. Started off as a popular radio show and eventually moved its way to television. There's also a comic book character. Here's an old radio that played Little Orphan Annie and Captain Midnight. Here's a pictograph projector from 1930. It was used to project opaque photos and postcards. Here they got some vintage cameras down here as well from Kodak, which the company's a shell of itself now, unfortunately. But it is cool to see these old school cameras, especially this one here that's called a Pocket Kodak, 1926 to 1932. Some radios. This one is a Tritone. This one is made by Zenith. This one is Westinghouse, but I think probably my favorite one is this one right here, made by Zenith, circa 1964. They also have a portable transistor radio. This one from 1980, made by Solo. This is a 12-inch American Philco television from 1950. They said it's resting on a sturdy child's chair that can also be converted into a table. There's a picture screen right here. Here's some pictures of the Ovaltine plant while it was still in operation in 1980. And then they also have a picture of the smokestack being demolished in 2008. And then here is what's left of it the day after its demolition. These are some vintage toys. And down below, they got a clock with a dog and piggy and a toy stove right here. Looks to be made of iron, just like the real thing. This here is the uniform of one Robert Martin, served in the U.S. Army in World War I, who was a Villa Park resident. Here's another first for me. I've never seen anything like this before. This is a concert roller organ from 1897. Antique organ player via a wind-up crank. Let's see if we can find the crank. Oh, there it is right here. Here's the crank. And that's what would play the music right there. Here's an old telephone booth made by the Bell System. Tried to get inside, but not able to. However, that is a old school telephone set where you talked into that piece right there, just like in It's a Wonderful Life. And they definitely don't make toys like this anymore. This is an old-fashioned dollhouse with all the accessories that come with it, including furniture and people, including mommy and daddy and the kids, as well as a whole Christmas and Halloween setup as well. There's some artifacts from when the train station was in operation, including this controller and brake apparatus. We also have a lock and key here, some railroad spikes. Here's a ticket punching machine, along with some tickets from back in the day if you wanted to ride the train. There's some track signals and some information about what happened and how the highway being built, kind of auto travel also being on the rise. Ridership declined and passenger service stopped on July 3rd, 1957. Well, freight service stopped in 1959. And then it was in the 1970s. The tracks were pulled out and it was turned into a path. And I got this kerosene lamp here right next to a ticket case. Here's another antique. This is a Underwood billing typewriter from 1912. Here is the typewriter in use. Hidden behind these trees here looks to be a old-fashioned train signal right here next to the building. Here's the old Ovaltine building, circa 1939. And there it is down the road there today. Here is the grand opening of the train station when it opened on November 1929. This is the Villa Park post office when it was under construction back in 1935, and the sign says that very few post offices were constructed during the Depression era. However, this one was because of the large amount of mail that the nearby Ovaltine plant was getting. And here's what that post office building looks like today from the angle of that picture. This was built 1935 to deal with all the mail that Ovaltine was getting, as well as the submissions from Little Orphan Annie. Here's what the post office looks like from the front. Looks like it's a private business now because they got private property signs all over the place saying to keep out. Just down the way from the museum is Ovaltine Court, which used to be the old Ovaltine headquarters. Have now been turned into luxury loft apartments. Here's the building from another angle here. The back alleyway. And with that, we are going to end today's video. If you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, I will greatly appreciate it. Again, I will stop asking once we hit 1,000. This is Mike Allen from Chicagoland, signing off from Villa Park, Illinois. I'll be back next week with another video, but until then, don't you go changing.